As we could see before, creating a Chrome extension, at least the basics, is super easy, but it's a bit tedious to always reload it when we made some change. And as I mentioned, it's Chrome specific. Luckily, there's a relatively new open source project out there that can help us with our Chrome extension development process. Let's check it out. It's called WXT, and the website is wxt.dev. As you can see, it's a next-gen web extension framework, an open source tool that makes web extension development faster than ever before. And actually, they are not lying. They provide an opinionated framework with tools and naming conventions, but if we follow their best practices, we can create our extensions blazing fast. They also provide very detailed documentation, which I recommend reading, but in this course, we will follow their best practices. As a start, why don't we rebuild that Chrome extension with that very basic functionality that we created in the previous chapter, but using WXT. So if I read the installation, as you can see, there are various options: pnpm, bun, npm yarn, whichever package manager you prefer. I use bun, but it's totally up to you. I will also just archive this previous project and create a brand new one with WXT. So they say I should just run the init command and follow the instructions, so that is exactly what I will be doing. Again, bun is already installed on my computer. You probably have npm or yarn, whichever. The project directory should be called tab-notes. I'm not using any template. I will go with vanilla this time, but as you can see, you could already choose Vue, React, bun. Okay, it says that I have two things left to do. I'm going to my folder and run bun install. And while it's doing it, let me just open my folder to see what we have. This is WXT's working folder. Well, let's start with package.json first. We got a couple of scripts here, and I can already try the deb script to see what it does. So if I write bun deb, or in your case npm run deb or yarn deb, it will basically start a new Chrome. You can notice that it's not the same Chrome browser that I had open, but it starts a new one, and it adds the WXT starter Chrome extension. I just pin it, and you can see it has some content. Wow, it's even animating when I move my mouse over the icons, and I can click on it. More than that, I can check the developer mode and see the service worker. I can see that it's also printing some logs in the background script. Alright, so now we can see that we got a very minimalistic basic Chrome extension. Let's see the file structure and what's happening behind the scenes. So if I'm in my code base, I can see a WXT config, which right now is super empty, but this is where we will add our own custom configuration. I can see there is a public folder which right now only contains the icon and some images. The assets folder has another SVG of a TypeScript. Then the components folder contains a component which is not a React component because we went with vanilla.js, but still this is the counter that's rendered in the pop-up. And under entry points I have the pop-up, which, as you can see, renders the contents of the pop-up, including setting up the counter here and some custom CSS. Then we have the background script, which uses a bit of a weird syntax, but still it's the background script. And then we do have a content script. Let's see what happens. it says that if something matches google.com, then it will log hello content. Okay, I suppose I should check if it's true. I have multiple Chrome browsers now, so let's open the one that WXT created. And if I open google.com and click inspect element, I can see that hello content is printed into my DevTools. Alright, so as we could see, this is something super simple, but let's make sense of what we've seen. Out of the box, we got an extension that looks more or less as complicated as our previous one was, but it has a lot more files. So far, I'm not convinced. Let's see. If I go to the pop-up and make some changes, such as I can see that it automatically got updated without me doing anything. So hot reloading is working more or less out of the box. I'm saying more or less because you will notice that when you're making a configuration change or something that's more complicated, then you will still need to restart everything. But when you're just changing the styles, text, HTML tags or basic JavaScript, then it should work without any problem. But how does it work? Well, if you look carefully, we have a hidden folder called output, and in the output we have Chrome mv3 dev. I think I've seen this somewhere before. Well, when I run the dev command, I can see that it puts the files there. So basically how WXT works is that based on all our source files, it generates these output files and stores them. And that browser that just started up is loading that folder, just like how we did with the unpacked folder in the previous chapter. And it just takes care of it all. So let's see what's in our files. Well, here is a manifest.json which we didn't create. It was 100% created by WXT, and it has a lot more information than we added to ours previously. But we don't have to worry about it because WXT will always update the manifest.json to the right format. Why is this relevant? Because in case we're targeting a different browser such as Firefox, maybe some of the configuration needs to be different. So you don't have to worry about it because this framework will take care of it. Okay, what other files? We can see that in the manifest.json we defined the background.js, which is indeed here. It defined the pop-up, which is indeed here, and it defined some permissions. And the content scripts are also living in the file structure. Now, of course, these files contain a little bit more than what we added to them. Think of it like a bundler that adds some extra code just to make everything work smoothly. Also remember, this is in development mode. WXT uses Vite under the hood, so that's why it's so fast and that's why we get hot reloading and other cool features. Okay, so let's try to recreate our previous extension in WXT. To get started, I will clean up the pop-up because we had a much simpler one. H1, tab nodes. I don't even need these two files. We actually do not need the content TypeScript because we didn't have a content script, and neither the counter nor the TypeScript logo really because we don't render it in our pop-up. What do we have left? We have the icon and the background script. We will talk about all of this later in details, but let me try to copy here what we had in our previous extension. Alright, we are getting some errors and it says cannot find name Chrome. Why is that? Well, WXT, as I told you, handles various browsers. So instead of calling it Chrome, we need to change it to browser, because it can be any other browser really. Well, what do we have here? The assets is empty, components empty. We have one single pop-up. And we have a background script which supposedly checks whether a tab has changed. Let's come here and bam, the extension disappeared. which happens from time to time. And as I told you, this is a perfect moment when some error happens is to simply stop with Ctrl+C and start again. Alright, tab notes is there, and if I check the extension, the service worker, indeed, the tab gets activated just as we had before. Alright, so as you could see, we could create the previous extension relatively similarly as how we did before. And actually that's the whole point of WXT. It's not reinventing the wheel, it just makes normal web extension development so much simpler. If this overview felt a little bit rushed and overwhelming, don't worry, this was just a brief overview, because in the next chapters we will look into everything in detail, so you have a very good understanding of every part while we are building our very own web extension.